I remember when I was 11 years old, I was standing in front of one of the biggest crowds in a church filled with hundreds of my friends' parents, grandparents, brothers, sisters, my teachers. I was standing there and I had to say it. Everybody was staring at me, waiting for me to speak, and my mind was just frozen. Every single second that went by felt like a whole minute standing there in front of everyone. And eventually I remember it and I recite my quote. I go back into line and the next person next to me tells their quote, and I'm in my head. I think I'm a loser. I think I'm a failure, that everybody's looking at me. I'm overthinking the experience that I just had. And the next day at school, one of the girls in my class comes up to me and she asks me, "How come you froze up?" And that just drilled into me more that people will remember this, that this is an embarrassing moment that I'm gonna remember, everybody's gonna remember. After that girl came up to me in class, nobody ever again mentioned it to me, nobody ever again remembered it. This is a story that happened to me a few years ago that I still remember to this day, the lesson that I learned, which was that there's no point on overthinking the embarrassing things you did, because quite frankly nobody remembers them. Because to be honest, people have their own stresses, just like you. Think about you. How many things are you focusing on? You're focusing on like a lot of things about self-improvement, probably about like mindset, about business, about money, about meditation, about coach outs. You're focusing on a lot of things, right? So you're not that different to other people. People are also thinking about their own things, probably not as advanced as you. You're probably pretty advanced when you're thinking about self-improvement. Other people are just thinking about like, what's the new TikTok trend, what's the new, I don't know, big YouTuber, what's the big social media star, whatever they're focusing on. And quite frankly, people just have their own worries, their own stresses, their own events, their own embarrassing experiences, that for them to keep up with your embarrassing experiences, they just forget, because our brains forget things that we don't find relevant. And to be honest, how relevant is something that you did a few years ago, a few months ago, a few weeks ago? Because we live in a world that is super fast paced. So within a week, the whole world could just change due to social media. Think about this analogy. Imagine it's 3:15 and the school bell is ringing, and it's the end of school, and a whole flood of students just start walking out. Some of them go home, some of them go and hang out, some of them get into their parents' car, some of them get into a taxi, some of them cycle back home, and it's just a whole bunch of students in roads, in near the school, around the school, near the shops. There's a whole bunch of students everywhere at 3:15, 3:17, 3:20. But what happens after 20 minutes go by? You probably experienced this when you were in school. And what happens when 20 minutes go by? The whole road goes empty. The school goes empty. Nobody's there anymore. And it's just like you doing an embarrassing thing where everybody in the moment is speaking about you. Everybody in the moment is looking at you. Everybody in the moment is remembering it. But after 20 minutes, after one day or 2 days, nobody remembers. Everybody's gone. Also think about the fact, how many embarrassing experiences can you remember that you have done? Maybe you forgot something when you were in a play, where you forgot your lines. Maybe you did something embarrassing, like maybe you approached a pretty girl, you wanted to speak to someone in public, you were speaking in public in front of a crowd and you forgot something. Think about something embarrassing that you did. And if you really sit down for 5-10 minutes, you can probably remember a lot of embarrassing things you did. But think about now, how many embarrassing things can you remember that your friends have done, that your family has done? Probably not that many. So that's just a clear example that you remember so many more of the embarrassing things that you do compared to your family, your friends, other people. Think about this. 2 years ago, COVID was the number one spoken thing around the entire globe. It was like this global pandemic. It started to China, spread to Asia, spread to Europe, spread to Africa, spread to the UK, spread to America. This whole pandemic we had where we couldn't go outside. Like imagine, we could not go outside as human beings because of a dumb virus. And guess what? That was the number one thing spoken about a few years ago. And today, nobody remembers it. almost nobody is thinking about COVID in their day-to-day life. Nobody. Bro, if it wasn't for the fact that I'm telling you, speaking about COVID right now, you would not be thinking about COVID. Think about the Queen's death. One of the best titles you can get, a female monarch of the UK who ruled, had like this palace, this jewelry, these lived for so long. But guess what? Within a few weeks, almost nobody remembers her. It's just like the embarrassing things you do. At the moment, everybody's talking about it. Everybody's focusing on it. 2 weeks later, 1 month later, nobody remembers. The point that I'm trying to get across in this video is two things. One, that nobody really remembers the embarrassing things you do. And two, we usually get caught up with the fear of right now. Whether it's approaching a girl that we like, whether it's speaking in public, whether it's talking to someone in the streets. Maybe you walk past someone in the park and you want to spike a conversation with them, but you're too embarrassed. We get caught up in the fear of right now because we're afraid if we approach a pretty girl, people are gonna talk about us, she's gonna talk about us, it's gonna be embarrassing, it's gonna be weird, it's gonna feel uncomfortable right there in the moment. But like I said, nobody remembers. Everybody in the moment is talking about you, everybody in the moment is looking at you. Everybody spreads out, everybody forgets. And the book, The Way of the Superior Man, told us that we need to lean beyond our age. Think about this. You might remember the first time you wanted to go to the gym and work out. It was probably a scary experience where you didn't really know much of the equipment, you didn't really know much about the workout, you didn't know things about protein, about how to maximize your muscle, about the best workout routine, know much about the people there, like there were just big guys there. It was intimidating because you were just there like a skinny fat kid that wanted to go to the gym. But you leaned beyond your edge. You went to the gym, you kept going to the gym consistently, and now you have muscle, you have more confidence than you did if you wouldn't have. But imagine if that fear took over you, and just because you had this fear that, oh, people might judge you, people might look at me weird, and you wouldn't have made muscle, or you wouldn't have gotten your confidence boost, and you wouldn't be looking more masculine, you wouldn't have any testosterone boost, you'd just still be like you were a few years ago, making no progress. As an actionable thing I want you to do right now, thinking about this video, is what is something you can do that you're afraid of, that you know will bring you more rewards, more something better into your life that will improve your life. Maybe it's making videos like me on camera, maybe stepping out of your comfort zone, speaking to someone in the park, speaking to a pretty girl that you've had a crush on for the past years or so, but you don't have the balls to speak to her. Yet, if we don't lean beyond our edge, if we don't step outside our comfort zone, like you going to the gym, you doing something that feels kind of difficult, kind of scary, kind of hard, then we live a life that we should be afraid of, and that's mediocrity, where we just sit in our rooms doing nothing, accomplishing nothing, not leveling up any of our skills. And I want to give you some actionable steps for this video, because most videos will just end here and tell you, oh yeah, go figure it out all by yourself. But I want to give you like a step-to-step framework that you can actually use to level up this skill yourself. So I want to ask you two questions. What can you do today or tomorrow that means you're leading beyond your edge, you're stepping outside your comfort zone? It can be something so simple. I'm not telling you to literally go approach 10 girls out in the streets and, I don't know, talk to 100 different people. Like, that's not what I'm telling you to do. If you're not to that level, if you're like super advanced, then yeah, fair enough. If you've been cold approaching already, if you're already pretty advanced in this, then cold approaching 10 girls instead of, I don't know, 7 girls probably would be the right thing for you. But you're probably not at that level. You're probably like a guy just like me who's just in his room, not really doing much, kind of just learning self-improvement stuff. So what you want to do is level up the skill, and you don't need to do something really, really big to level up the skill. It can be tiny things, such as you hugging your parents, spending a little bit more time with your parents, hugging your siblings, doing something that, I don't know, it might feel a little bit awkward, it might feel a little bit weird, but you know, imagine if you hug your parents for the next 10 years and you build an amazing relationship because of it. They no longer see you as this video gamer rat just in his room, in his dark room, just shouting and screaming into the screen. They see you as this normal human that hugs them, that really cares about them, rather than just caring about his phone or his computer. You really care about your parents. So leaning beyond your edge doesn't have to be something massive as approaching 10, cold approaching 10 girls. It can literally be as you speaking to someone in the streets, you just spiking up a conversation with an elderly man that you might find interesting. I don't know, you might learn a cool lesson, or you might learn a cool story about him, or just hugging your parents, hugging your siblings. That's probably one of the best things you can do to level up this skill. I want you to go out there and really level up your edge rather than just sitting constantly watching self-improvement videos and not really doing anything. Because if you really don't do anything that I'm telling you to do, whether it's hugging your parents, it might feel awkward, I know, but if you hug your mom, then fair enough, she'll probably appreciate it. Your dad will probably appreciate it. If you speak to a random elderly man in the streets, he'll appreciate it. Imagine you're a young guy who speaks to this elderly man. How many young guys are speaking to an elderly man in the streets? Really think about it. Every young guy is just like on their phones, just watching social media, I don't know, fapping in their rooms. So it's going to be delightful for him to be able to speak to you. Even if your social skills are not great. Bro, he's a human. We're human. He's going to forgive you for you, I don't know, stumbling on your words. And you might learn a lesson. You might learn something that you could take away from him. Maybe he messed up in his youth, and you now correct your life because of that lesson. The point that I want to get to you is that fear is the number one thing that is holding you back from achieving really anything, from approaching girls, from talking to other people, from leveling up your social skills, from being a successful person, really, from having the life that you really want. And I know it's difficult because I'm still kind of fighting with this myself. I'm not telling you that, oh, I'm this perfect guy who has no fear and just lives life with beyond his edge. Because I'm not gonna lie, I'm being a pussy. I've had a crush on one of the girls in my class for 1 year, and I have said nothing to her. I've tried to speak to elderly people on the streets, but I usually find myself being a little bit like a pussy and not really speaking to them. A great mindset you can carry out whenever you're trying to approach an elderly man, whenever you're trying to spike a conversation with someone. Have this mindset that you could be playing video games right now. You could be fapping right now. You could be scrolling on social media right now. But no, you're outside, leaning beyond your edge, leveling up your skill, leveling up your edge, leveling up your social skills, rather than just being in your room like a little rat, chasing dopamine, social media, porn, junk food. So this is a video that is going to hold you accountable. It's going to hold me accountable. It's going to hold us accountable. So we're going to actually do something that's leveling up our edge. So for you, it could literally just be as simple as hugging your parents, speaking to your parents, asking them a deep question about their childhood. Or maybe for me, it's going to be going outside, or it can even be for you going outside, speaking to an elderly man, ask him maybe try to get him to answer a deep question like, oh, what was your childhood like? Or what is one of the biggest lessons you've learned in your life? Just something like that. Obviously, don't just like come up to him and instantly ask him that. Just kind of like build up a normal conversation. Be like, hi, I don't know, I want to speak to you because I've been pretty lonely today, and he'll enjoy it, genuinely. And the second question that I want to ask you is, if you had no fear, would you still be living the same life that you're living right now? This is a quote from The Way of the Superior Man, and it will be valuable for you to really ask yourself, get a piece of paper and really journal and just write this question out and really ask yourself, would you be living the same life right now if you had zero fear? If you had zero fear of, I don't know, starting the gym, approaching an elderly man, speaking to your parents, asking deep questions about other people, learning how the world works, putting your face out there, building a personal brand. Because I'm not gonna lie, like I said, I'm probably not really living the life that I should be living, without fear. So, like I said, today I'm literally gonna cold approach an old man. I know that sounds weird as hell, but that is generally what it is. You're just cold approaching an elderly man. And if you're really, really advanced, you can even cold approach a girl. But I'm not gonna lie, I'm too much of a pussy to do that, and I haven't really leveled up my skill to be there yet. Because leaning beyond your edge, it's almost like a skill you level up. It isn't something that you just suddenly get good at or you're just born with it. No, you level it up. First, you start with your parents, then you start with other people, then you cold approach women, and then you speak in front of stage, and you really level up the skill slowly but surely. And like I said, even if you mess up with your words, even if the girl rejects you, even if you come across as weird or whatever, bro, within a week, within a month, people are gonna forget. That pretty girl that you approach, bro, she's gonna like get back home, scroll on some random TikTok and just forget about you. That elderly man, even if you come across as somewhat weird, he'll still appreciate the fact that you came up to him as a young guy instead of just nobody coming up to him. Because really imagine how many young people come up to him and speak to him. and putting your face out, bro, it doesn't matter. Nobody cares. Nobody's gonna remember it. And if you want to ask me personal questions and learn from other guys who are also on the self-improvement journey with me, people just like you want to improve, want to level up, and ask me questions, learn from other guys, really benefit from each other, grow like as a community, then it'll be the first link in the description. And I only did this plug right here because I only really want people have the attention span to be able to get to this part of the video. So the first link in the description, join the community right now. You can ask me questions, we can, I don't know, chat about the Wave Disappear Man, Atomic Habits, about books we've read, about self-improvement things we've done, and we'll have a good time, and I'll see you there.